Oh, you know what? It could be on my screen. Hold on.
Change
Hold
the
on.
speaker view.
I just want you to look good for the rest of your day on Zoom.
Welcome to the battlefield, to the boardroom. You are back again. And today here in the battlefield, the boardroom with Philip Folsom and the Wolf Tribe, and myself, Colonel Garth with CommandReady. And we're here talking about things that matter in the business world and how we relate them. And today we got a couple ideas. Frankly, Philip, great to see you again. We are absolutely here to talk about engagement. Now, how you engage is different based on every situation. So the first one is we live in this virtual world. You guys are watching these videos. You're communicating with your teams over Zoom or Teams or whatever WebEx thing you're using. But we've got to stay tightly built into the lives of the people around us because they're working from home or they're working remotely or they're traveling now and they're off site. And how do you keep high levels of contact and stay in the same plane when you're spread out and when you're using virtual technology to get your job done? And so I thought it'd be kind of cool to talk about what a leader's role is and why it is important to keep those high touch points and stay engaged. And here's the trick: without micromanaging, because you do high touch points and pretty soon technology plus communication equals control. And you start trying to control everybody too. So good morning. And what do you think, man?
Yeah. Hey, the number one driver of not only retention, engagement, and resiliency is a sense of belonging. We have lost that. We've lost it because we're hiding behind masks. We're working remotely. We are not sharing a common mythology, right? So we've lost all of our big kinship systems, which drive this ancient and vital sense of belonging. And so leaders, without that sense of belonging, driving your engagement and your retention and, resiliency of your team, you're going to crater, you're going to fall apart, and you will be dissolved in the giant mill of life. So one of the things we can do is we can increase the cadence of the touches, because we've lost a little bit of quality, so you can make up on the back end with some quantity. And yes, you are spot on with the risk of micromanaging, because obviously you want your people to be autonomous, and that self-directed autonomy comes from purpose and mastery. So really what your touches should be doing is reconnecting and recommitting to your people. And that's where we shore up that sense of belonging. So that's my first one, kind of anthropological and maybe psychoeducational, but boy, that sense of belonging is vital for humans. You cannot forget that ghost in the machine, which is your humans in the middle of your organization.
Yeah, that's strong. And there's a military tie-in. We talk about it in a lot of our programs because it's important. A guy named John Boyd, and he came out with something called the OODA loop. And if you're trying to make that connection, and as you would say, kinship, you have to take a look at how people process decisions and how people process information as they move through and make choices about their work, their day, what they're going to engage in, what they're not going to engage in. And the OODA loop is simple. It's 4 letters, and it stands for observe, orient, decide, and act. And the key here is the things that we see, our observations or feel or sense or read, right, get filtered through our orientation, your biases, your history, your education, your background, right? All that stuff. And the way we see information flows into how we process it, then that drives our decisions. There's an old adage that says people don't change their mind. They make new decisions based on new information. So leaders, if you're going to use technology and you're going to try and build those touch points, that's where you focus. You've got to focus on what can they observe and what education can you give them to improve the quality of their filters, right? If they can filter information better, like they can make shorter decision cycles, they understand the problem before they start making choices, right? They have that the virtue of prudence, right? They put knowledge in place. So when you get data observation and it dumps down into your orientation, it's dumping down into an education filter. And you do that not necessarily by telling them how to do their jobs. You don't need to focus on decide and act. I mean, like, well, fill out your CMR or engage in this XYZ thing, right? You don't have to tell them what to do. You have to focus on how they orient what information they have to lead to their decisions. And that's where learning and education come in. So what can leaders do? Well, instead of focusing on the specific reports, start focusing on understanding how they're used or what they're for or why we gather that data or what the outcomes will be. Give them an education about how their actions affect things down the chain. And by focusing on the first two aspects of the OODA loop, you can actually change the outcomes without ever having to tell them how to do their job. So you want to get away from micromanagement? Great. Back things up to learning management and teach people that way. And you can do that online because your conversations online can be educational, not instructional. And it's a huge difference.
Cool. Hey, the OODA loop was one of my favorite parts about your whole CommandReady program. So shout out to you for creating that.
Well, I didn't create that. That's John Boyd. I don't get.
I know, no, but you did integrate. And really, what CommandReady is taking all this military grade leadership and bringing it into the civilian world, and so it's a great program. So shout out to you and any of the people watching who are looking for some just hardcore military grade leadership. It's a great multi-week program, and it's one of the things that stuck with me for a long time because how we cycle through that OODA loop is really your competitive advantage. So you're pushing how fast you can cycle because that's how you win the dogfight in the air, right? But that doesn't work in a collaborative scenario, which is
right. And that's the depth of the OODA loop. Like you can't just be one circle. You have to recognize there's two circles, you and whether your staff, the enemy, your friends, whatever it is. And the trick is there's missing elements to the OODA loop that in a work environment or a family environment you have to add.
So my second one is, based on that OODA loop, which is designed for a solo predator to be successful. That is a person in a dogfight, right? That's how that's built. Or it's an organization against another organization. But we have to realize as soon as you add more people onto the team, you're going to have that orientation shift because everybody has a different personal history. And in our current world, which is built on a collection of individual people, right? Well, that's that pride-based world. You have to get people aligned. The OODA loop only collectively works if people are aligned with the way that they process all of that observational input. So we process it collectively with that shared mission, vision, values, which is why falling back to making sure that it's collaborative and it's collective and it's reciprocal is really the key to making that OODA loop work for you, as opposed to just churning through the whole organization and causing a lot of isolation.
Coming right off that, if you want to build that collaboration, focus on language. It's one thing the military does very, very well. The first thing you do, you deconstruct the way people talk, reconstruct the way you want them to talk. Now, you can't do that in a business world. But if you focus on collaborative language, if you focus on, we things, not I things, and it's much more complicated than that. But the way you discuss the future, the potential, the engagement, the clients shapes the way those outcomes come about. So if you want to move the needle, take a look at how you're discussing things. And, we have some classes on that, but really take the time to look at the language. You can feel the defeatism in the words people use. You can feel the optimism in the words people use. And I think, to take your point all the way home, like fix your language, fix the way you talk, like even at home, like listen around the dinner table. Like, how do you discuss other people? Is it a positive, like, look at the value of these other folks, or is it always kind of gossipy and digging into them? And if it is, you got to cut it out. You got to stop. The whole idea today is how you engage with other people as a leader is critical, especially now as we start working disaggregated ops and we are spread out all over the country, and we are looking to use technology to change our touch points. Little orientation-based things focused on language, things focused on bringing what's your kin, right? Bring people in close, and it'll change the way your organization runs. Great chatting with you, Phil.
Oh, man.